A very good morning to you. My name is Malcolm Graham Wood, and today I'm back at Core Finance for my CEO or Chairman interview. My guest today is Peter Levine, CEO and President and Chairman of President Energy. Welcome, Peter. Nice to see you again.
Thanks very much. Just call me Chairman.
Just Chairman. Understood.
Just make it simple.
There's so many titles. Before I start, I mean, you've been in before, so most people will know. Could you just give us, for those people who are new to President, a thumbnail sketch of President Energy, please?
Sure. President Energy is principally focused in Latin America. We are a producing company. We're a profitable company. Our core operations are in Argentina, and with production there as well as exploration. We've got exploration in Paraguay, and we have production and a bit of exploration in America, in Louisiana. Excellent.
We'll talk about Louisiana and Paraguay later on, if I may, but obviously primarily, and your time and money and so on has been in Argentina. At the moment, you know, it's always been a question about Argentina, but at the moment, I'd really like you to give us an idea about what the working environment is, and of course with the elections coming up, how you might expect things to change.
We've never had any problems with Argentina, both on a federal level and on a provincial level. On a provincial level, the provinces themselves where we're working, which is Salta province and the Rio Negro province, we've got extremely good relations with the provinces, and it's the provinces who actually run our concessions. They grant the concessions, and it's the local Secretary of Energy who we actually report to, as well as the environmental and all the other relevant departments. The federal level, we don't really deal a lot with, but when we deal with them, we have no issues. So as far as we're concerned, the working environment in Argentina, of course, it's not like the United States, but on the other hand, we're very happy, and the bottom line is we're making money, and we are free to do what we want. We've never come across any material or any corruption at all, in fact. Of course, we have labour issues like everyone else. In any country, we have labour issues, and the unions certainly are not as powerful as they were, but they need to be respected. Health and safety is a matter of course anyway. We're a company in which IFC, the World Bank, has a shareholding. So we have to comply with that. But as far as the micro environment for ourselves, we have no issues at all, and we're very delighted. The macro issue, which also your question touches upon, is not really, we're not political animal. We can't comment on that. But we certainly don't see any material issues going forward, whatever the election holds, in the hydrocarbon industry, which is absolutely vital to the economy of Argentina. So I wouldn't say we're in a bubble, because we're not, because of course our price has a matrix of Brent in terms of oil, and gas, that's the internal demand. But nevertheless, from a macro political point of view, we don't see any material change. And I think that the view from outside, and I've got to say particularly the UK, is based on, let's just put it politely, a misunderstanding. You could call it ignorance, you could call it blindness, or you could call it prejudice. But one or the other, I think there is a failure to understand and appreciate the hydrocarbon industry in Argentina and the matrix that goes on there, but also the fact, and this is the signpost to it, that we've seen major companies actually coming into the offshore round, as well as major companies there, BP, Shell, Exxon, Total, Statoil. They're all in Argentina, and Shell is developing as well, significantly. So, and Chevron, of course, now we bought our assets from Chevron, some of them, and they're developing their unconventional, significant development. These guys would not be here, would not be in Argentina, if they didn't think it was a stable platform in relative terms for them to develop their oil and gas business.
Excellent. Thank you for doing that. That's important for a lot of people. When you last came in, you were embarking on a significant well program. 2018 turned out to be a very good one, but I know that you're very key to talk about going the future rather than the past. I would like to know how it's been going in 2019. You've had you're building the business, scalable business as you called it. We're looking for increases in production and reserves. You're doing a number of workovers and number of drilling in various areas. can you talk us through how operationally 2019 is going, please, Peter?
Well, we started in 2019 on a very high note
Yep.
at 3,300 barrels. Since that time, we've been doing workovers. It's taken us a long time to get that started in March, but that was what we anticipated and planned. Nothing is instantaneous in the oil industry, and I know that private investors want to see something instantaneous. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And we've been doing the workovers. We've done 5 so far. We're on our 6th. We've now got a second rig in the field. This is all in Rio Negro.
Yeah.
To expedite matters as well, because we've been taking our time to assess the reservoir. All this, of course, has impacted on instantaneous rates, but we're not looking at instantaneous rates here. We're looking at what the rates are going forward on a medium to long-term basis are. And part of that is understanding the revenue. So we're very happy with how it's going so far. And we're very happy in terms of looking at the exit rate for 2019.
Yeah.
And approaching 5,000 barrels. I think it's about 4,900 was our rate, our target rate, and that remains the same. We're approaching it both oil and gas. We've got our drilling, which is going to start during the European summer months. So we're talking about end of August, maybe beginning of September. And we've got a long drilling campaign which extends until 2020. This is a serious and long-term thing, but all the while we are actually making money.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. And there is to some extent in the private investment community at least, and maybe in the institutional investment community, a fixation on instantaneous rates. It's not instantaneous rates. Rates in every oil company go up and down, particularly when you're working in the field on workovers or on drilling. But it's sustainable rates in the medium to long term. But the most important thing is its margin. And so we've got a lot of things which we're doing, as well as infrastructure for gas. We're very optimistic on the gas, and we've got a lot to play for in our key area, which, as I keep saying, and I've said this to you before, critical mass is all important.
Yeah.
And we've got critical mass in New Ken, and that's where we're going to expand.
Excellent. And I'm going to come on to the gas in a minute because I think that's really exciting. So you've got this 3-year target of increasing production by 50% each year, starting 3,300, 4,900. I'm not going to go into that, but I am going to say that in your statement, a bit like you just mentioned about margins, the increases in production is only important because of the concomitant word that you used in cash flow and profit, and you added to that margins. So the 2019-2020 $50 million fully funded cash flow program is there to deliver that, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the funding was put in place. You even did a small funding in London to make sure that you had a 2-year window for drilling. And you said at the time you are on track to drill 15 new wells, a good number of workovers. You are going to build and upgrade pipeline and significant infrastructure works. So presumably that's still the case?
All ongoing.
Excellent. Before I just leave finances and go on to the sort of some of the more interesting thing is, you have a reputation for cost cutting. I checked out a few of the numbers. Your group admin costs were down by 51% last year to $6.4 a barrel. You've got a ruthless emphasis on efficiency in the business, with operating costs coming down, as I see it, 42% in Argentina, 34% in Argentina, and 42% in Louisiana. Presumably, you're still absolutely ruthless on costs.
Yes, but we've also got to bear in mind that also cost is proportionate to what you're doing. And this year we are running 2 workover rigs in parallel, and we will be running 2 drilling rigs in parallel. 1 drilling rig in the New Kent Basin in Rio Negro, and towards the later part of this year, 1 drilling rig in Puerto Guardian, where we intend to drill towards the latter part of the year and have already applied for permits for locations for drilling. So with all that work, as well as infrastructure work as to laying a 16-kilometre pipeline which expands our capacity for the gas pipeline, as well as redoing the gas plant, which again is work which we're going to be doing this year, as well as electrification, which now we're putting back until the end of this year, simply because we cannot do everything all at the same time. That requires an increase in what we call G&A, but it's concomitant, it's proportionate to what the results we're getting out. And that's the most important thing. It must track that. It must not exceed it. But it's a chicken and egg. What comes first? The G&A to some extent comes first, because you need people on the ground to do that work first before you actually get the results. So it's an investment in the right people. And as you can see, we've just appointed a new head of subsurface who used to work with me at Imperial Energy many years ago, who was our head of exploration at Imperial. So an investment in the right people is good. So yes, emphasis, absolutely. A laser focus on costs, but we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay, so where does the gas process come into that? We noticed that you've talked about pivoting towards gas, balancing your portfolio, and that the Estancia Vieja gas was powering Puerto Flores and Puerto Prado, as I could understand it, and with the gas pipeline that you've already mentioned, you're powering Estancia Vieja itself and the other two fields from your own gas at the moment, or
Estancia Vieja is powering Puerto Prado at the moment.
Yeah.
It will be powering Puerto Flores, which was the electrification I referred to earlier at the end of the year. But we are going to be drilling in Estancia Vieja some interesting wells, gas and oil. We're going to be drilling in Puerto Prado, gas and oil, and we're also going to be drilling in Las Basas. So Las Basas and Puerto Prado are the two which we acquired late last year. And I'm pleased to say that the Puerto Prado plant is actually up and working, the treatment plant, and we are selling that oil at a slightly higher margin now to another refinery, without it going as it had been going to Puerto Flores.
Lovely. And the pipeline you mentioned, was that the pipeline that I read about going from Puerto Prado to Las Basas?
The gas pipeline goes from Estancia Vieja to Las Basas, and then to the main trunk line with our own tie-in.
Right. And you mentioned that selling power, one day you're going to sell power into the system. That's still very much on the cards.
Yes, it is. As I said, that's the Puerto Flores link, which we're pushing back towards the end of the year, simply because we didn't anticipate actually running 2 drilling rigs and 2 workover rigs at the same time. But the opportunities that we've got permit that, and therefore that is what we're doing. We're learning a lot more about our reservoirs, and we're seeing more opportunities, which is why we have expanded this, and therefore we can't do everything at the same time. So.
And where in that does you mentioned that you have a big gas plant at Las Basas?
Correct.
Is that needing work as well?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we actually did this small little raise at the beginning of the year. We've since done a lot of work there. We're continuing to do work there. It's a slow process. We've already flagged the point that the complete plant will only be ready in 2020. However, we will have partial plant opening during the course of this year, and as people can see from our Twitter feeds, we're already getting the compressors in. So we anticipate starting to sell gas within the next 60 days from Las Basas and Estancia Vieja. We will then enlarge the pipeline, and we will be selling a lot more gas from Estancia Vieja, which is shut in from existing wells, which will then be added to by our new wells. It's chicken and egg.
Yeah, so we should see a surge there. And, because we're only England, we saw pictures on the news of big power cuts in Argentina a couple of weeks ago. Did it affect you? Is it something that you'll be able to help out with when your president is selling energy into the grid?
Yes and no. The answer is it affected us. The subsidiary answer to your question was that not completely, because ultimately the power cuts do affect other people as well, and including off-takers. So it does restrict a bit. Did it affect us? It affected us for 12 hours. We were off. And every power cut does affect us slightly more than the hours we're off, simply because we've got ESPs, electrical submersible pumps, downhole, which take time to come back. This time, I think we were very fortunate. It didn't take a week or so to come back. It took only a day or two.
Now we're going to move on to Louisiana and Paraguay. Is there anything that I've missed that in Argentina? Because I think we've been through, the plans where you're on target, and the gas and the electricity generation and so on. I'd like to talk about Louisiana because I noticed that you had made the, for an area which some people thought was non-core, you'd made a very interesting addition in there, and you are going to be, I'm told you looked at the seismic, you think you've got not only a chance to increase value production substantially, but also have some exploration.
That's right. Well, we've got our existing acreage, which is effectively 2 wells, which, as we've said, has been shut in temporarily because of the flooding, but they're now working again, or should be working again the next day or two. In relation to the exploration area, which is Jefferson Island, we've got the seismic back, we're looking at it, it looks very prospective, and we expect to be drilling as operator and 20% interested party in that. We expect to be drilling on that in September.
If we can move over to Paraguay, a lot of people have been expecting you to drill in Paraguay last year and this year, and you are now going to drill. You've got 2 drillable prospects, I think it's that you said in your last report, and you're flagging it up. So where are you in Paraguay now?
Well, as we've said, we're still on course. We've done a lot of work. On our website, people will see the results of some of the work. We just put it on our website. We are going forward on that. And end of the year, beginning of next year, we expect to commence operations as we have flagged.
Yeah.
It's slightly more complex, but we feel that with the experience that we've got, we can do it under our existing budget, which is under $10 million, and on time. And we've got the team now to do it internally. In 2014, we used IPM as Schlumberger, Integrated Project Management of Schlumberger, and that was, they're very good, but very expensive. And we've got our own experienced teams now doing this, of drilling, of course. So we'll be doing that, and we'll probably be starting that immediately after we finish drilling in Puerto Guardian, which is also in the north of Argentina, not that far away from Paraguay. So, we can do a lot, but running 3 drilling rigs all at the same time in diverse areas would stretch us too much in every single way. And therefore, as we are bringing forward Puerto Guardian drilling towards in the latter part of this year, then the drilling probably will be in the first part of 2020. It looks good, and also we're revisiting the previous well that we drilled in 2014, because we had an independent petrophysics view on that, and it's actually looking what we actually thought it was before the failed DST drill stem test that we did. So we'll see. So there are interesting things to happen, but let's not forget our core business. Before we come off Argentina, though, I've got to say this, that we have now been granted a land in between the Puerto Flores field and Estancia Ibeca field, which we've announced. It's integrated within the concession. We call it reunification. The province has kindly granted this to us without any consideration of bonus payment. There is some interesting prospectivity there. There's a well which produced gas. Our pipeline actually runs through it, and investors are invited to look at the website where we show the plan, because that's another piece of the jigsaw on the critical mass that we're talking about, which is we are still pursuing that. There are still areas adjacent to our pipeline which we want to add to.
I mean, that comes on to my last formal question is about M&A. You pulled off some fantastic deals, particularly the Chevron deals, with various things being added onto it. Are you still looking? Are there still any of these around? You've just mentioned that one. Any other deals still around?
Well, just like yesterday's news is today's fish and chip paper. It's the same thing. The acquisitions are forgotten about. It's the results that count and now moving forward. Yes, there are things that we're looking at. It's step by step, but there are things we're looking at, and we can say no more than that. We don't want to get people running in all different directions, but certainly it's quite clear to everyone, because we've made it quite clear, that what we want to do is capitalize on that strategic pipeline that we've got to build our gas and make selected acquisitions as and when appropriate.
Yeah.
And that in 2019 is something which I think we can do. We already said, at the beginning of this year, we're looking to make acquisitions. Well, this extra land for the reunification, which is a very useful piece of acreage, that is our first step to adding to that jigsaw.
Excellent. I've saved the most difficult question till last. I'm not going to ask the usual question about where would you like to see President in 18 months' time, because we know what you want to do that. I want to talk about two things. The valuation in the London market, not just of your company, but a lot of companies, but in particular in terms of President Energy, is pitiful. And, you know, given if you on a comparative basis, the share price should be way higher. I would like to know your views on whether you think that your thoughts on that, what you think the future is for small and mid-cap energy stocks in the London market or anywhere else. And to be frank, people say, if you would take it private, there are other things to do. I know that's a hodgepodge of a question, but I know you've got interesting thoughts. So please, can you give us a thought on what you think about valuations?
I think that anybody who thinks this market, as far as mid or smaller capitalized oil and gas companies, is not dysfunctional, is not seeing the full picture. I think it is dysfunctional. I think for various reasons. I think that it's not certainly the market that was there 15 years ago. I do not rule out it coming back and people recognizing this, but certainly I think the most important thing is to recognize that we are a business, and we are businesses that must make money and invest for the future. And if we don't make money in the short to medium term, then the business case for being a public company is less. We happen to make money.
Yeah.
We happen to be profitable, and we happen to have growth. But even at our size, and I can't comment, how we valued on the market is how we valued on the market.
Yeah.
But in terms of investor sentiment, investors speak with their feet. What I do see is institutions 10 years ago much more orientated towards oil and gas and having oil and gas experts. Nowadays it's generalists who frankly make frightening decisions.
Yeah.
And to some extent, with great respect to them, ignorant decisions, not in a rude sense, but ignorant in terms of they don't fully appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it is a difficult time in terms of there are some excellent companies who are not properly valued on the market. That gives opportunity, of course, but the question then does come, do you rule it out that it's going to get better or not? And it's a very difficult question, Mikey, and I have my own views on it, which I don't necessarily want to talk about right now.
I understand. We've come to the end of our time, so thank you very much, Peter, for coming in. Today's guest has been Peter Levine, Chairman of President Energy. Thank you for watching Core Finance, and I'm Malcolm Graham Wood. This has been my Chairman interview, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.